On today's episode of the 1-0 Sports Show, we fill you up on everything you need to know for the Final Four this weekend. We talk some baseball, and there's a massive rivalry series on the softball diamond. And we also get you ready for the playoffs in the NHL and the NBA. All of this and much more here on the 1-0 Sports Show.
We're going to have an exciting show. We're going to talk about the NFL divisional round and what we expect from it. We talk about Texas's inconsistent start in Big 12 play for men's basketball. We'll finish with some talk about our women's basketball team. So we got a packed show today.
I got to go the other way. Texas A&M, they got a lot of identity issues. Are they an agricultural school? Are they military? Are they blue collar? Are they academics? They're all over the place. So
now, I'm always a sucker for a one-handed catch. I have tiny hands. I need 3 of them just to catch a football. So this one-handed grab in the end zone, that's just super impressive in my eyes. That's going to be my play of the week.
Mayo pour on college game day. Look at this. Just the guy and the North Carolina, South Carolina game. He's just straight eating it, shirt off, rubbing it on his body.
Hey, listen, the Cinderella story ends here, Texans. I'm sorry, man. The chariots turned back into the pumpkin. It struck midnight. Whatever you want to say, I think it ends here.
Today's show is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everything in between. Plan your ride today to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. So moving on to our first, we are talking about who's hot and who's not. For my take, who's hot? Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota team, and with him ending his shooting slump with an average. He was going for an average of 0 to 5 threes, but now he is back on my radar with an impressive comeback with a 28-0 run in the first 4 minutes of his last game. And who's not? The San Antonio Spurs with an 18-58 record. I simply don't understand why this team doesn't do better than they are right now. They always match the intensity of a top 1 seed team, but even against formidable opponents like the Denver Nuggets, they were unable to secure that win. And at the end of the day, Wembyani needs to kind of step it up because he's just not cutting it anymore.
For my who's hot, I'm going to take you to the baseball diamond. It is the much slept on Pittsburgh Pirates. Okay, the Buccos have a 6-1 start to this season. They went to Miami and swept the Marlins. They went to DC and took 2 of 3 from my Nationals, and 2 of the games, frankly, weren't very competitive, as were 2 of the games in Miami. And they got a lot of good young talent. Ke'Bryan Hayes, Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz in a very winnable NL Central. They also have Andrew McCutchen, who's still playing baseball. I mean, God bless. And they have a few new starting pitchers. And they got Paul Skeens, who's tearing it up in AAA, the #1 overall draft pick. And he'll be in the show very soon. Watch out for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And for who's not, it has been a tough start for the aforementioned Miami Marlins. They're the only team in MLB without a win, and they've played 8 games, which is as many or more than everyone else. They were swept by the Pirates at home. Jazz Chisholm was complaining about the shadows from the open roof, saying that they couldn't see the pitches. They were then swept by the LA Angels with no more Ohtani, and who are just an average at best team. And then they blew a 2-run lead in the 7th inning to another pretty average St. Louis Cardinals team last night, all at home. It seems like things are falling apart at the seams, and that might be good for my Washington Nationals because we may not come last in the NL East. So,
moving on from there, but moving on to the NCAA tournament, you know, it's getting really crazy right now. Like, who has been your favorite player to watch, men or women?
Lots of good selections. I love the Jack Golke story, but I'm going to have to go with the big fella, DJ Burns. I mean, that is my guy. The footwork is impeccable. The drop step, the hooks, just the touch he has in the post. He's averaging 18.2 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. That might not sound like domination, but when they need a bucket, you know where the ball is going in the high or the low post. It's going to DJ. Catch, look, maybe drop a dime to a teammate. He's a great team player, and he's just captured the hearts of the nation.
He captured mine too, but Mine has to be the women's. You know, you have Giorgy Walkins, you have Angel Reese, but honestly, even with the media focus on her so much, Caitlin Clark, she's just so amazing to watch. In her recent games, she just makes me cheer, even on my couch. Like, I'll start screaming. It's just so cool because her energy she has not only makes her so good, it rubs off on her teammates. And like I tell people, Iowa, it's like gears at work. Once they start moving, it's very hard to get them stopping until they need that push. And even against their past game with LSU, they really dominated and just swept them, honestly.
Well, and speaking of the women's tournament, the Iowa-LSU rematch in the national championship drew an astounding 12.3 million viewers on ESPN, the most watched college football game ever on the network. Did you watch it, and what was your reaction?
Okay, it was a big game for me. I definitely cleared out my schedule because me and my friends were watching it, and we were pretty much divided. And I was actually rooting for LSU. You know, I always like to see defending champions go against and try to win that back. But just seeing the way that Caitlin Clark not only dropped 41 points but led her team into the Final Four is definitely a game that was sick to me. As I mentioned before, it's just the energy she has, and then just the defensive and offensive work was just, they were really isolating LSU, and they were able to dominate. So it was a really great game, and it was stick to me. What about you? Did you end up tuning in?
So I really, really wanted to. It's just Monday nights are my busiest night of the week, as they are for many people. So I must ask ESPN, the NCAA, the powers that be, the basketball gods, why was this game, the rematch of the national championship, you knew with all the controversy about LSU, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, all the star power, you knew this was going to be a seminal game for women's college basketball. And this game was on at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern time, 6 Central time. Guys, what are we doing here? Like, you got to put this 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific in a prime time slot, ideally not on a Monday night. I don't know why they have the national championship for both basketball and football on a Monday night. It makes no sense. They don't understand TV. And this could have got 15 million viewers. This could have inspired more little girls to play basketball. And I think that was a real missed opportunity. Between this and the three-point line fiasco, it's like the women's game is growing despite all the constraints put on it.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, and they're still making headlines at the end of the day. And like you said, I honestly feel like they really could have gotten 15 million viewers if they just kind of fixed it. But when we come back, we'll bring on Gabriel to judge our verses and just to see our hot takes and see who wins. All right, stay tuned. welcome back to One and Know Sports. We have brought Gabriel on here to judge our verses. So for the first one, we're going to start with the NBA Play of the Week. Mine was Pistons' Malachi Flynn dominating over the Hawks with a career-high 50 points off the bench. But my favorite was that three-pointer he hit with 50 seconds left in the fourth. His confidence and his flow was definitely showing in that game. And just this last point right here, just to seal off that win, boom. From the bench and making 50 points, I mean, this guy's definitely going to stay on our record and keep making headlines. I mean, you never know. What about you?
Well, that's a great story. Like, he's averaged only 5 and change points in his career, and then he just drops 50 off the bench. That's insane. But I'm going to have to go with the human highlight reel, Anthony Edwards, jumping out the gym. As you're going to see here, he's going to get the ball swung to him, make a move, and then watch out, folks. Oh, my goodness. Jumping all over anyone. Big men beware, 7-footers beware. The ant train is coming down the tracks, and you're not going to stop it. And that was a very clutch dunk. He could have taken a more safe shot up 3 with less than a minute to go. But for him, a poster is a safe shot. So that's why I'm going with the human highlight reel. I'm going with Anthony Edwards. And they would win the game as well.
Well, I'm going to go with Ryan's highlight here to win this one because Anthony Edwards, it seems like every other week he's finding himself posterizing another NBA big down low. And this is just another example of him doing that. The 50-point game by Malachi Flynn was great, but I'm going to have to go with Ant's highlight.
Okay, that's fair.
And then, so for my best moment of college basketball, of the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, I got to go with Caitlin Clark just barbecuing people against LSU. I mean, we have to, folks, unfortunately, we have to show it on the, we don't have to show it on the laptop. So there it is. What a behind-the-back move to get in the lane, taking any 3 she wants. And everybody in the gym knows that she needed to shoot and put the team on her back. And she did so anyway. She still got to her spots to score. That is the mark of a true scorer. That is what, you know, Melo does. Melo did. Jordan did. LeBron does. That's what the true greats do. And 41 points in a huge game doesn't really get better than that. And she was efficient.
Okay, well, me bouncing off of women's basketball as well, you know, that UConn versus USC game was such a good game. But, you know, Juju Watkins was running circles all over these girls. But in my opinion, it was Forbes with that 3 to tie up the game. I feel like that definitely gave the women that momentum to keep going and to actually be able to secure that win over. And then this one we are going to have to show. But definitely, you know, oh yeah, there it is. That was so loud. No, but definitely my thing was that really big 3 because it ties up the game, and you know, you just see the energy of the crowd just go wild, and you know what, at the end of the day, it's the chemistry that will really push the team to the finish line. So I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Well, both of these highlights were really good. I mean, a couple of women's games, both of them raining down 3s. I'm going to have to go with Caitlin Clark on this one because, I mean, every time she stepped back and took a shot, it just felt like it was going in. And, I mean, 9 threes is just, it's an insane feat for someone to accomplish, especially in such a big game like the Elite 8 against the reigning national champs. So I'm going to go with Caitlin Clark on this one.
Okay. And then we're going to move on to the best baseball play in the MLB or College of the Week. And I'm going to have to go with Florida Gators number 14, Jack Callahan, who's hit a supposed 490-foot home run flying right past that right field. That makes 14 home runs matching up with his jersey. And I don't know how accurate it was, but for it to just soar right over that right field, it was just such like a clean hit. It was crisp. It was nice. And honestly, that was just something that really just hasn't been done in a while, or actually since I've really ever heard about it. So I'm going to have to go with the 490-foot hitter. What about you, Ray?
Well, so shout out Jack Caglione, you know, Gator legend. He's a two-way player, by the way. He occasionally will start or come out of the bullpen. Let's see it here. I want to see this moonshot here. Okay. Let's see.
We're gonna show the Gator.
Another one we can't show. Oh my goodness! Low breaking ball. Get out of here. For those of you at home, he literally hit it out of the ballpark. But so for mine, as you guys can see on the VO, I got to go with Ronel Blanco. Okay, what a moment! His 8th major league start. He had never gone beyond 6 innings pitched in a game before, and he goes the full 9 and throws the 17th no-hitter in Astros history. And it was huge for the Astros. They were swept to start the season. They needed a win at Minute Maid Park, and they got it 10-0 in resounding fashion behind a no-hitter from Ronel Blanco. The bats woke up. Huge win for the Astros. And the wider context is important here. He and his wife welcomed a baby girl this week, and he found out he made his first Major League Opening Day roster. I don't think it gets better than that. That's baseball right there.
We're going to play Giorgy's clip. I know we didn't play it, by the way, for the baseball.
Okay.
It's okay, no worries. It's totally okay. So we're going to be moving on to our best NFL or NHL or other sports highlight of the week. Mine is not necessarily sports related, but I love when artists take time to highlight universities, athletes, and Travis Scott had visited UT Austin yesterday actually, and was having a fireside chat with Michael Rubin, the Fanatics CEO. And honestly, it was a big highlight in the sports world because he went to the DKR and was interacting with the volleyball, all the basketball teams, and I'm just going to show. And then I got this really nice merch from him, Cactus Jack, That was a really good sports highlight because he really just highlighted, what it really takes to, keep that effort going and then be momentum. And he also allowed a lot of students to, chop it up with him. So I really appreciated that. But probably get into an actual highlight right here.
For my other sports highlight, I believe this should be an exclusively hockey segment because hockey's a great game and people don't know about it. Rangers-Devils, one of the biggest rivalries in the league, close proximity, New York, New Jersey. So this is what starts it. So this is Rempe's hit on Siegenthaler last week, dirty hit. He was issued a penalty for this. So the next game they play, off the opening face-off, a massive brawl starts. All 5 skaters would get involved, all fighting one-on-one. As you can see, the coaches even start screaming at each other from the bench. It was heated in the Garden, second fastest fight in the history of Madison Square Garden, and an astounding 162 penalty minutes in the first period. Because, hockey, dirty hits like that, they don't just get legislated by the Department of Player Safety. They get legislated and adjudicated by the players themselves because fighting is legal, and I believe that is a beautiful thing. And just watching people throw haymakers out there on the ice while grabbing each other's jerseys, it's tremendous. And there's so many fights, you had to have the highlight from the upper deck because there was that many fights. I'm surprised the goalies didn't fight too. That's hockey. What a game.
Okay, and just before we do this one, I don't think we did we say?
No,
I was like, no, we
didn't.
didn't say for the baseball, so we're gonna backtrack real quick.
Double verdict.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the best baseball highlight, I'm going to go with Jack Caglioni's moonshot because, it's just an outstanding feat for anybody to do, especially in the college game. They do have the metal bats, but it's still, not many people are hitting it almost 500 feet. And then for this other sports highlight, I'm going to go with Travis Scott coming to UT because it's a very interesting way to connect with all the students here. There was people lined up for hours just to grab his merchandise. I know our executive producer TJ was there in line among the first to get some of that merch. So I'll have to go with Travis Scott, connecting to the people.
All right, thank you. And then the last but not least, the worst ref mistake or blooper. Mine was something that was very, very annoying. The NCAA three-point line was uneven on both sides of the court during the Texas versus NC State game. And one of the lines were 9 inches short on its apex. How does that happen? I understand that it was the contractor's fault, but how exactly do you do such a big mistake in such a big game? And especially the thing that even made me mad even more was that Texas and NC State, both of the coaches agreed to play on that court. And people say maybe it's fair because it's even on both sides. No, because the second half team with the shorter line is going to get that advantage because girls are going to be tired. Girls are going to, like, it just changes. So it's not uneven. And honestly, I can't help but wonder if that's maybe was a factor in why Texas lost. So definitely the NCAA, they retracted their mistake and they understand. They said it's going to be good for the last Elite Eight game, but I just hope none of this stuff ever happens again.
I mean, that was just a disgrace, and that should never happen for any college basketball game, much less a Division I women's Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. It's ridiculous. It would have never happened in the men's game. But I'm going to have to turn to the men's side of the tournament. Guys, they're letting Zach Edey get away with anything. The man is a giant. I believe he's about 7'2". Okay, you see here, just blatantly elbowing people to get out of position. A hook and hold, and then he tramples some poor guard from Gonzaga, and the bench erupts asking for a foul call. God knows what happened, but, like, how? Like, usually basketball refs, we've seen this with people like LeBron, we've seen this with people like Shaq, they're usually biased against players who are big for their position, and yet for some reason, Zach Edey can just get every call. They look at him wrong, they breathe on him wrong, it's a foul call in the post. They graze his arm in the post, it's a foul call. But he can just manhandle people and elbow people and get away with it. Like, he's that guy in a pickup game that you're like, he pulled up? Damn. But he's 7'2". and he just seems to be so annoying to play with. And he's a very talented player, but they're just going to let him get away with anything? I mean, that's seems like a very unfair advantage for him and for the Purdue Boilermakers.
Well, unfortunately, I do not like Zach Edey, so Zach Edey highlight will not win on this segment. I mean, obviously, the biggest blooper is the three-point line. I mentioned it earlier on my appearance on College Crossfire that it's really like a big deal. If this happened in any other basketball game, you know, NBA, in the men's game, this would have been delayed. It would have been pushed back 4 hours. And I don't really understand why they didn't just do that because there was no game after them on Sunday night. So, you know, it's one of those things that's going to be talked about for quite a while, and I think it really impacted the game in a lot of ways.
Yeah, honestly, that was just something, so.
And I can't believe they agreed to play.
No, like, why
Yeah.
would you? Why would you? Like, oh my gosh, it was just, I don't even want to think about it anymore. But that wraps up our verses. I think I have 3, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
you do. Yeah.
Pat myself on
Go
the
for
back,
Giorgy.
you know.
Yeah.
I was scared in the beginning, I'll be honest. But when we come back, we're going to be bringing on our softball beat reporter, Zach Davis, to answer a few questions, especially against this upcoming rivalry game. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. nice.
Welcome back to 1-0 Sports. We're here with the Daily Texans softball beat reporter, Zach Davis. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. Good. Early morning, but happy to be here.
It is an early morning. I can sympathize with that on a Friday morning. So let's cut to the chase. Huge series. Texas versus OU. It'd be big anyway, but OU's a softball dynasty. Texas is up and coming, number 2 in the nation. Should the Horns be the favorite for this series against OU?
No. To put it lightly, Texas, there's a couple reasons for that, but Oklahoma is playing a similar kind of dynasty that UConn had when they peaked with Gino Auriemma. This Oklahoma squad is very talented. They were on a 71-game win streak from last season and this season, before losing to Louisiana in the middle of the season, but this team is incredible. They have 8 players over the 400. They have 8 players that are getting on base over half the time. 7 are hitting over 400. And Texas has, I think, 3 or 4 hitting over 400, and maybe 1 or 2 that are getting on base over half the time. So the talent gap between Oklahoma and Texas is, there's a gap. There's a gap.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's got some of the best players in all of softball. I'll give you an example. There's a softball pitcher for Oklahoma that played 4 years at Oklahoma State, and she was the Big 12 pitcher of the year last year. And then after running out of her eligibility at Oklahoma State, she went not far down the road to Norman, where she now plays for Oklahoma and is their star pitcher. So Texas has to deal with her again, and now for Oklahoma.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, but I understand, like, we got a good site going, but Texas was shut out twice last weekend against the 8th-ranked Oklahoma State. Like, is there any worry about this upcoming series with that performance?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely has been a slowdown in Texas softball. They've played exceptional in the beginning of the year. It got them up to the 2nd-ranked spot, and they peaked at 2 this year. They've been playing good softball, but recently in Big 12 play, not even going to Oklahoma State, you can take it back to UCF or Houston, earlier games on their schedule. They barely squeaked by UCF, not a great softball team. They dropped again to Houston, which is reasonable. They were playing away. They also were playing at UCF. The home-away crowd is a big factor, don't get me wrong, but Texas is not playing the level of softball that they have been playing earlier in the year. So I think there is worry, but I was talking to Coach White, I was talking to some of the players. Their mentality is very cool, relaxed, just thinking one game at a time. They do believe they're one of the best teams in the country. I believe that too. I think when they're playing at their best, I think they're pretty unbeatable.
Oh, definitely.
But they are playing another team that is considered pretty unbeatable. So it's going to be an exciting series.
Well, definitely. And then, but every unbeatable team always has a weakness. Do you think OU has any weaknesses that Texas might, jump on that opportunity?
It's a great question because every team's got to have a weakness. Sometimes in basketball, they might have smaller guards or they might not have a big man. In softball, they have everyone, all of the above. Oklahoma has pitching, fielding, hitting. They do not have a weakness. And if they did have a weakness in a game, if someone was showing some kind of weakness on the field, on the mound, in the batter's box, they just have someone right behind them that can just play. So it's really Oklahoma ranks 1st in the country in batting average, 2nd and 4th, I believe, in earned run average. So and the thing about Texas is they're not far behind. Texas ranks 2nd in batting average and 5th in earned run average. So they're right there. They're going to compete. But to say that Oklahoma has a weakness, I don't think it's about beating Oklahoma is not about attacking weakness because there is no weaknesses to attack. But it's about capitalizing in the big moments. In this series, whatever team capitalizes in the big moments more is going to win.
Definitely. Nope. Yep.
And so who will be on the hill tonight for Texas, and how do you think they'll do?
So I asked Coach White the same question, and he goes, "I'm not telling you, Zach." So I can't give you an answer, but I can tell you who I'm expecting. I think Tegan Cavan, freshman pitcher, coming out of Des Moines, Iowa. Hopefully I said that right. Same high school as Caitlin Clark. She's a stud. She's been playing great softball. She's playing softball, I think, even Coach White didn't expect, being a freshman, and she really wasn't the ace, quote unquote. I know Coach White doesn't like that word, but she wasn't really the ace to begin the year, but recently in the past 2 months, she really has emerged into that role. So I think Tegan is going to play tonight. I mean, she strikes out batters. She does not give up home runs. She's a great pitcher. Down the road, there's 2 more games in the series. I think we can expect Mac Morgan and Estelle Check out there too. I think Kavan might come back on Sunday, but those are your hurlers for softball this weekend.
And so, who you got, and in how many games? Any sweeps? 2-1? What do you think?
You know, I hate predictions because like both these teams are so talented in their own way. But Oklahoma is just, I mean, they're 34-1. Like they had a 71 game win streak carrying over from last year. I mean, Oklahoma. Here's a stat for you: Texas hasn't won a series against Oklahoma in 18 years. It's been 18 seasons since Texas took Oklahoma, and that was back in the day when the series were just 2 games. So Texas won game 1 and game 2, and that was it. But I mean, beating Oklahoma is just such a what's the word? It's a thrill in its own way. Like Coach White doesn't expect. He's not like his mentality isn't. We're gonna go out there and win the series. We're gonna go out there and win a game. Maybe we'll get 2. You know, like it's. Beating Oklahoma by itself is such an accomplishment, especially with all their talent, all their development, all their skill set. So, I mean, if to answer your question, I think Oklahoma's probably going to win 2 games. I think Texas does squeak out 1. I think they could easily get 2 as well. I mean, playing in the home crowd, it's such a difference maker. Like Red and Charlie McComb Stadium has been pumping this year, and with everything with what's at stake in this game, I can expect Coach Chris, the SID, said there's going to be standing room. They're getting rid of the extra pitching or whatever to fit more room for standing. So, I mean, this stadium is just going to be packed.
This should be honestly a great game, and honestly, everybody should tune into it. Definitely, it's like it's our rivalry. That's everything we have. But thank you so much, Zach, for joining us. Make sure to tune in to the softball game, and yeah, we'll see you right back. We'll be talking about the NBA when we come right back. Oh my God, that was. Welcome back to Want to Know Sports, and for this block we're going to be diving into the NBA. And with these playoffs coming up soon, we're talking about the Western and the Eastern Conference. So, in your opinion, who do you think would win the West?
Well, it's the Wild Wild West for a reason. I think things are very uncertain in the West. There's a lot of contenders, but there's no one, at least in the regular season, that's really risen above the pack. That being said, with all the uncertainty, I got to go with the proven commodity. I'm going to take the defending champion Denver Nuggets. You know, Jokic is having an MVP season. He's got a great surrounding cast around him. And I just have questions about a lot of these other contenders. Minnesota is very young, and there's an annual tradition of Rudy Gobert's defense being figured out in the playoffs. I was really tempted to say the Clippers, but now James Harden, after initially playing well, is kind of struggling in their offense. And the Clippers are, unfortunately, it appears to be cursed. I just don't know who's locking up Jokic and company in a 7-game series. I think the Nuggets will be coming out the West and going to the finals.
Honestly, and Jokic is definitely something that really, someone that really cannot be stopped. But even though they're a young team, I'm going to have to go with Minnesota. I mean, they're making an impressive run right now after the win over the Raptors. And, I mean, we've been talking about him all day, but freaking Anthony Edwards, he is just dominating on this court right now. He's about their lead scorer, and he is making formidable plays. And you know what? The only thing I say is, like, their defense sometimes, like you said, they get figured out pretty early on in the tournament. But I feel like if they can lock it down and, you know, just make everything good, and like everything can come together for them. But, you know, at the end of the day, we really can't depend on Edwards and, you know, our other lead scorers. We have to actually come together. But I really can see, you know, a young team can go far. You know, they're building up their brand right now, so you never know. But I mean, with yours, I mean, I'm pretty sure I can already guess it. But if the Nuggets were to win, who would be your MVP?
Well, I think that even if they were to lose most of their remaining, you know, 7 ranked games, your MVP has got to be Nikola Jokic. It would be his 3rd MVP in 4 seasons, and he deserves it because I don't care what anybody says about unathleticism or him being out of shape or whatever. This guy is an all-time player. He is possibly the most unstoppable force in the league since Shaq. He is, but it's not because of his raw power. It's because of his touch, his skill, his playmaking ability. I don't think there's ever been as good of a playmaking big. He's kind of like a much better version of Arvydas Sabonis. I just think he's tremendous. I mean, his stats this year, 26, 9 assists as a center, and 12 rebounds. He gets his teammates involved. His scoring takes defensive attention away from his teammates. I mean, you've seen Bruce Brown's production decline since leaving Denver, and that's for a reason. And it's because he had the most valuable player in the league on his team. It's Jokic.
Honestly, and Jokic is kind of leading the ballots right now for the predictions with it. But right underneath, you know, it's the man. It's Anthony Edwards. You know, he is the lead scorer of the Timberwolves and is going on an unstoppable flow. And, you know, I'm so sorry. He was, and his impressive steal in Indiana and his dunk over John Collins in Utah really had caught everybody's attention. And, you know, at the end of the day, this person, you know, his stats, I think he's averaging about, like, 24 points a game and, you know, with about, like, 6, defensive rebounds. I honestly think, like, this man can definitely, he shows off on defense and on offense. He really can, you know, make the game go, and that's really how it is with MVP. I mean, it's Jokic. Like, he makes the chemistry of the game. He makes the game better. And, you know, it's same thing with Anthony. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to see who pulls out on top, whether it's going to be the Nuggets or the Timberwolves. We're going to have to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of our choices were named the MVP. And, you know, and give me a team right now, though, in the East or West that you think would be a play-in for the playoffs right now.
So there's a lot of frisky play-in teams. I'll give an honorable mention shout-out to the GOAT and the Lakers. I don't think it's their year. I think they're probably running out of gas, but AD and LeBron are as formidable of a 1-2 punch as anyone, and I love Austin Reeves' game. However, I got to go with the most complete team in the play-in who shouldn't even be in the play-in. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. The only reason they're currently in a play-in spot and one game out of a playoff spot is because of the midseason injury to Joel Embiid. And Embiid would have been really the only legit, in my opinion, MVP contender with Jokic, but he's ineligible for the award because I believe he missed 30-something games, and you can only miss about 17. This is a complete team. Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Maxey are all stars that are two-way guys. This is not your modern NBA stars that in the regular season are lackadaisical on the defensive end of the floor, and then in the playoffs they try to break their habits and play defense. No, these are three guys who can score and defend both ways and defend a lot of positions, and they're surrounded by guys who can shoot and defend a lot of positions. Kelly Oubre, Buddy Hield, Kyle Lowry, who's a Philadelphia native and a Grizzly veteran who has been there before. They got guys who have been there before. They got Nick Nurse on the sidelines who has been there before and led one of the most improbable runs to a championship in modern times in the 2019 Toronto Raptors. He knows how to coach a team, and most importantly, they are free from the fraud, the choke artist, the bamboozler, Doc Rivers. They are free from his grasp. No 3-1 series leads will be blown. I got the Sixers, if they make it in as a 7th seed, beating the Bucks in the first round, and I think they will give Boston a run for their money in the Eastern Finals, but ultimately come up short. What about you?
Honestly, first I had to redefine myself what play-ins were, but on my radar lately it has been the Golden State Warriors. You know, you got this team coming in after tearing up into Thursday's matchup with 5 straight wins, a stretch in which they actually outscored their opponents by 11 points. They are pushing with momentum right now, and you know what? And they really did put some hurt on the Houston Rockets as well with a sharp 133-110 win. And Stephen Curry had 29 points with 6 assists and 6 rebounds, while Klay Thompson, another key contributor, had 7 for 11 going beyond the arc en route to 29 points. And you know what? And then just this team, they aren't making headlines. They weren't as good as they used to be in their prime. But, you know, they still got lead rebounds like Jamin Green and, you know, Chris Paul with the assists. Like, their offensive game is really strong. Their defensive game definitely can be a little bit cleaner when it comes to stopping the momentum of their teams, because that's genuinely why they would be failing the games and losing the games. But I feel like if this team actually were to kind of like go back to where it used to, you know, I think they are kind of running out of gas, like you mentioned with the Lakers. But I feel like if they kind of just could shape it up real quick, they can actually make this. They can actually make a run in the playoffs, and you never know. You just never know. This entire playoff season can really surprise everybody. Anything can happen. But that wraps off our NBA block, and when we come back, we're going to be doing our world-renowned pick'ems, and right now I'm leading, surprisingly. But when we come right back, yeah.
And I need to make up some ground. We'll see after the break.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Welcome back to Wanna Know Sports, and now for everybody's favorite block, Pick'ems. So tonight we have the Final Four of women's, the number 3 NC State versus number 1 South Carolina on ESPN. Who y'all got?
So are you, Grabiel?
I'm gonna go with South Carolina. Undefeated team, probably the best team in women's college basketball. I think they're just gonna get past NC State. NC State, they barely squeaked by our Longhorns women's team, and I don't think they're gonna be able to get past this dominant South Carolina team.
Definitely.
I would have to second that. South Carolina has been the best team in women's college basketball for not just this year, undefeated season, but arguably the past 2-3 years. I think they'll be the ones cutting the nets down yet again this year. And if you're a betting person, I would even take them to cover the 11.5 points. What about you, Giorgy?
Honestly, I'm going to have to third it with South Carolina. I mean, just like Gabriel said, they barely made it past Texas, and Texas wasn't even on their best game. So, I mean, maybe they could surprise us, but like for me, I love to bet, so it's definitely South Carolina is where my money's going. So, and then tonight we also have number 3 UConn versus the number 1 Iowa on ESPN at 8. And I have Iowa. Like, these girls are going to get their gears grinding again, and I genuinely think that maybe Clark can beat the record for most threes in a game. She had 9 last time, so if she gets 10, that's like the most in a NCAA tournament. What about y'all guys? Gabe?
Well, I'm going to go with Iowa as well. I think that it's just another step in the Caitlin Clark story that is going to be written again tonight. She beat the defending national champs last week. She's going to play against a team that apparently did not offer her dream school, UConn. And maybe in the national championship, she's going to go against South Carolina, who is probably the best team in the nation. So I have Iowa. I believe Iowa could win the national championship as well. But I'm going to go with Iowa against UConn tonight.
Throughout history, the great players, as they are at the pinnacle of their sport, have to use extra things as motivation. We famously saw this from MJ many times in The Last Dance. Just the smallest things someone might say to him will irk him and drive him to try that much harder in his preparation. Caitlin Clark could be the MJ of women's basketball when it's all said and done, and I think she will use the fact that, like you said, Gina Auriemma was already committed to Paige Beckers during recruitment and did not offer Caitlin Clark a scholarship, and I think she will use that as motivation. Look for a Caitlin Clark, at least a 30-piece, maybe another 40-piece. Great players step up in big moments, and that's exactly what Caitlin Clark is going to do tonight. I got the Hawkeyes.
Definitely, and we're going to moving on to the Final Four of the men. We got number 11 NC State, which is a surprising most, and against number 1 Purdue on Saturday at 5 on TBS. Personally, I have NC State. I don't know why. I feel like Purdue is barely, they would barely get by, and I did have Purdue written as down, but sometimes, I gotta go with, the little bit of an underdog. You never know. They might surprise you. Just never know. They might surprise you. It's madness around here. But what about you, Ryan?
So, I originally was not a believer. I filled out 2 brackets. NC State did not get out of the first round in either one of my brackets. But I am a believer now. DJ Burns and the boys are going to find a way to get this done. They're not just going to cover. They're going to win outright. Purdue, annual tradition of letting Boilermakers Nation down. It has come later this year than usual, but I think it will happen tomorrow night. Zach Edey might get locked up a little bit better. Maybe he won't get as many calls this game. I got the Wolfpack in an outright victory. This is what March is about.
Unfortunately, I am going to have to pick Purdue. I was on the NC State Cinderella run in my one bracket that I made. I had them in the Elite 8, losing to Houston, but Houston did not even make it that far. So I was kind of a believer. I think, maybe the magic might be done. I wouldn't be surprised if they do beat Purdue, but an 11 seed I don't think has won a Final Four game in history. So they have that going against them. And I believe Purdue, it's going to be a really good matchup. See how Zach Edey kind of adjusts to playing against somebody like DJ Burns. So I'll have to go with Purdue, but I wouldn't be surprised if NC State pulls it off.
Nice. Well, we got a top seed matchup right now. We got number 4 Alabama versus the number 1 UConn Saturday at 7:45 on TBS. Check it out. What do you got, Gabriel? What is your consensus?
Well, in the aforementioned bracket that does have me currently in first place, I'm gonna go with UConn. I picked UConn to win it all at the beginning, and I'm gonna stick with it. They've blown everybody out. Even dating back to the last year's tournament, they have 10 straight games of winning by 13 plus points in March Madness alone. I think they're going to do the same thing to Alabama. Alabama squeaked by against teams like Clemson and North Carolina. And I think the Huskies are a well-oiled machine, and they're just going to continue on to a national title.
Definitely. What about you, Ray?
Well, I mean, what head coach Gennorium has done in Storrs, Connecticut over the past few decades has been commendable. They have a dynasty. Oh, wait, no. Wrong sport. But, Jesus. Anyway, I'm so focused on the women's game today. Look,
Good.
I think UConn is amazing. I think they will probably be cutting the nets down on the men's side. However, I will say I think Alabama's going to cover. I think that's a big spread for a Final Four game, just considering that Alabama is one of the best offensive teams in the country. So I think at least for, 3/4 to 80% of the game, they're going to be able to keep it close because they're going to be able to keep pace scoring with UConn. Eventually, the Huskies will pull away, but if you're a betting person, I would take Alabama to cover, but UConn moves on.
Definitely. I got UConn too. I have to look at the stats, but Bama isn't nearly as close to UConn's offensive stats and offensive drive and everything like that. And if you're a betting person, go with the 11.5 with UConn because that's pretty good. All right, but then we're gonna move on to the NBA. We got Oklahoma City Thunder at the Indiana Pacers tonight at 6. I don't really care for both, so I'm just gonna say OKC. How about y'all?
I mean, I don't watch too much NBA basketball. It's not playoff time yet. So for this one, I'm gonna go. I'll just say Oklahoma City. I think they're having a better season than the Pacers right now. I'm not sure. Yeah, it says SGA is out. So I mean, it's gonna be a tough, hard-fought game, but I think I'll go with OKC.
How about you, Ray?
Well, the Pacers are on their home floor in basketball-crazy Indiana. This is a home stretch of the season. They need a win. They got teams like Philly breathing down their neck trying to get that 6th seed that Indiana is currently in. They traded for Pascal Siakam, who is a very slept-on star at the deadline. I like the Pacers. I kind of like the Pacers going forward in the playoffs, and I definitely like them to win tonight because Shea is out, like you said, and Shea is the straw that stirs a drink for the Thunder. And so I'm going to have to go with the Pacers.
Okay, and then we also have the Minnesota Timberwolves at Phoenix Suns tonight at 9 on NBA TV. Honestly, unless Devin Booker can cook and get his stuff together, I think I'm gonna have to go with Minnesota just because it's the main man we've been talking about all day. What about you, Gabe?
I'm gonna have to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. They have been atop of the Western Conference, and really, when you look at it, it's a really stacked Western Conference, and being at the top really shows a lot. And I think they're going to continue their run towards trying to be one of the top teams in the West to compete with the defending champions and the Nuggets. And I think they'll get it done against the Suns tonight.
So I'm going to have to zig while the panel is zagging once again. I'm going to go with another team desperate for a win, fighting to make a playoff spot in the West, or maybe they're slightly in a playoff spot. Regardless, they need a win. The Big Three is playing. Nurkic is a game-time decision. But very importantly, Karl Anthony Towns is out tonight, folks, and that is a big deal for Minnesota's interior presence. There's only so much Ant-Man can do in the supporting cast. I got the Suns on the home floor in the Valley of the Sun in a desperation spot. Give me the Suns.
I did not know he was out. Well, gotta stick with it.
So moving on to the rink, we got the Colorado Avalanche tonight, 100 points, and they are visiting Edmonton, Alberta to play the Oilers. Giorgy, who do you got?
Honestly, the points are very close, but you never know. I'm gonna have to take the Oilers just because I haven't watched them, but I have seen clips of them, and then I really like their defensive strategy, the way they kind of like they will always like try to isolate and like kind of get in their heads. I really like it, so I'm gonna have to go with the Oilers. What about you, Gabe?
I really don't watch a lot of NHL, so really I just picked this based on who has the most points. The Avalanche have 5 more points than the Oilers. I'm sure our producer TJ can fill me in on some NHL after this, but I'll choose the Avalanche. I don't know too much about the game, so I'm just gonna pick the Avalanche.
Okay. What about you?
Well, so if you don't like hockey, or you've never given hockey a chance, or you don't watch hockey, this is the game for you. This is going to be a tremendous game. End-to-end action. You have 4 of the biggest superstars in the league. You got Draisaitl and McDavid, who are 2 centers for the Oilers. You got Cale Makar, maybe the best defenseman in the league for the Avalanche, and Nathan MacKinnon, who, along with McDavid, competes to be one of the best players in the league year in and year out. They're leading. I think both of them are leading the league in points. Draisaitl's up there. This is going to be a tremendous game of hockey. Both teams are going to comfortably make the playoffs, but I will take Edmonton on home ice, but really this could go either way. There's going to be tons of goals. Grabiel, you say you don't watch a lot of hockey. If you're free tonight at 8, give this game a chance. This will be fantastic.
And then moving on to the MLB, we got the Houston Astros, kind of falling off a bit, but Texas Rangers tonight at 7 on Apple TV. Like I said, I'm going to have to go with the Rangers. You know, you got like the defending champs, and you know, the Astros are kind of falling off right now. Like, they're very hyped in the media the past years, but right now they're just not living up to it. What do you have, Gabe?
Okay. I am an Astros fan.
Oh, sorry.
I do believe that the Astros are going to win. I don't know about tonight. I don't remember who's on the mound tonight, but I'll go over the whole series. I think they'll be able to maybe split the series. They're finally on the road. Yeah, Hunter Brown, I think. They're finally on the road. This Astro team, you know, they're 2-5, but they were actually mashing at home. They looked pretty good. The starters actually look good. The relievers, the bullpen, it was abysmal at home. That's the whole reason why they're 2-5. They're and then in their 2 wins, one was a no-hitter and one they scored 8 runs. So I think they need to do more of that. And last year they were explosive on the road, and I think they're going to get it done again. I don't know if they'll win tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if they split or win the series this weekend in Arlington.
Nice. How about you, Ray?
So, as much as this pains me to say, I'm going to have to pick the Astros. I'm no fan of the Stros. Our producer just threw his Rangers out on the floor in the background. Look, the Astros, it has been pleasant to see them on an early slide this season. But let's be honest, this is the Astros. They're a great baseball team. They will be back. The bullpen isn't great, but it'll sort itself out. And, I mean, look, in most statistical categories, including ERA, home runs, batting average, I believe runs scored, despite the record, the Astros have actually been better in every category, all of those categories, than the Rangers. And so part of it is the competition they've had to play. I think the Yankees are really good this year. I got Houston winning this series, and I got Houston winning tonight. You got 2 pretty bad pitchers tonight. I think it'll be a fun game, lots of runs. Unfortunately, I got the Stros, folks.
I mean, no. But for moving on, but still on the topic of baseball, we have BYU at Texas today. You know, we're predicting the remaining games of the series, but Texas already won the first one. So, Ryan, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, actually, BYU won last
you're
night.
right. No, you're
so
being
Texas,
delusional.
guys, it has been a rough season over at Disch-Falk Field. However, Texas has begun to turn around a little bit lately. They took 2 of 3 in Lubbock. They took 2 of 3 from the Baylor Bears. I think Texas will turn this series around. I'm not sure who's going to be on the hill for the Horns, but I'm going to have to go with 2 Texas wins to win the series 2-1. What do you think, Grabiel?
Well, you know, I'm an avid Texas baseball fan. You know, you'd find me at almost every home game. So I was there last night, and it was really a tough watch. They fell down 6-0. They managed to crawl back in, but they still lost 7-5. the last couple of conference series for the Longhorns, they have lost their opening game, and they have gone on to win the series in each of those other series. I think they're going to be able to pull it off. I think Ace Whitehead should be on the mound tonight. He's been stellar in his last couple of outings, and tomorrow should be, I believe, Max Grubbs, and he's been lights out as well ever since he's found his footing. It's just trying to piece it all together for the Longhorns in the series. The offense looked good last night when they started clicking. I think they're going to be able to continue it for the rest of the weekend. So I have Texas pulling out the series in the remaining 2 games.
I mean, like you said, you got Grubbs on, hopefully going on the mound right this coming up games. But honestly, Texas they're doing good. But in my opinion, I feel like these errors sometimes will catch up to them. And I have them winning the next game, but I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like BYU is going to take the series because I love my Texas, but at the end of the day, you really just have to take account of BYU's players and their pitching and their defensive end. It's really good on both sides. And bouncing into the softball, you got the big stud rivalry. You got the #1 Oklahoma versus #2 Texas. We all know what we want to say, but what are we actually going to say today, Rye?
Well, like you said, we all know that this would be a huge series victory at McCombs Field in front of the Burnt Orange faithful if the softball team was able to get this done. Unfortunately, they're coming up against a buzzsaw, a dynasty, 34-1, as Zach said in the C block. And so, he's a softball expert, and I'm going to have to go with his answer as to his prediction as to who's going to win. I think it'll be a tight series, but I'm going to have to go with the Sooners 2-1. What do you think, Grabiel?
I mean, it might be kind of crazy to say it, but I think Texas has the ability to pull off this series win. So I'm going to go with Texas, especially if they didn't seem like things were clicking last week against Oklahoma State. But if they can get it clicking this weekend against the Oklahoma Sooners, I think they could pull out 2 games. Reese Atwood, Katie Stewart, all of them, Tegan Cavan, Citlali Gutierrez, Mac Morgan. If everybody's on their A game, this softball team is, they're top 5 in the nation for a reason. And I think that, this is probably the best Texas team in recent memory that could go up against Oklahoma and knock them off in a series. I think Zach said it's been 18 years since Texas has knocked them off in a series, and I think this year could be the year.
As much as I'm praying this is the year, I'm just going to have to go with, OU. Sounds very gross coming out of my mouth, but I'm going to have to go with OU, just because, like Zach had mentioned before, they really don't have any weaknesses. Everything's pretty solid. I mean, maybe we can catch them if they have, as soon as they are kind of getting off their game, if Texas can catch it right then and there, they can push it through. But it's going to be a pretty tight series. But I see Oklahoma winning 2 games and Texas winning 1. So, yeah, unfortunate as it is, but I'll definitely stay tuned for that one. It should be a great game.
And on that somber note, that's it for this morning on Want to Know Sports. Shout out to our producer, TJ. Shout out to Samantha holding it down in the back. Shout out to everybody for getting up this morning, early Friday morning. Shout out to Zach for joining us from the Daily Texan. And be sure to check out our sister shows, College Press Box on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. and College Crossfire Wednesdays at 9. Have a great day and have a great weekend.